Hello and welcome to the Telegraph Studio and Business Reporters Supporting SMEs campaign, hosted by the Telegraph Online. I'm Alistair Greener and today I'm going to be talking to Rupert Collier from Pestler AG. Good morning.
Good morning.
Let me share a dilemma with you. This is the 21st century and we expect technology to give us this seamless workflow, yet we still have these breakdowns.
I think we have to be fairly realistic and maybe a little philosophical about this. Technology changes a lot and very, very quickly. If you work in the oil and gas industry, for example, you will probably be buying parts and using materials that haven't changed in decades. My product changes every week, so I think we have to be a little sympathetic. But a lot of these breakdowns can actually, with the right implementations of software, be predicted. A lot of customers are still using legacy hardware. They're still using kit that perhaps isn't up to the minute and isn't capable of coping with the modern demands that users put on it. A good example would be, let's say Joe Bloggs is the IT manager of a small to medium-sized business, and he is running his website on a server that is perhaps a few years older than it should be. If Joe suddenly gets a very serious condition and can't come to work, then the chances are, as fate would have it, that website is going to go down on that specific day. A Twitter power user goes on just that very morning to buy a product from your website. He can't do that because the website is down. He therefore tweets his dissatisfaction out to his 250,000 followers. At that point, you have a very serious PR problem and are potentially losing a lot of customers. So I think if we go back to the beginning of that example, the legacy hardware, if you have a solution which provides you the insight and the data to make informed decisions on the future of your company, you're in a much more powerful position.
So the situations that you've just described is obviously costing organisations a lot of money. What kind of figure are we talking about, do you think?
Some estimates have downtime to be in the hundreds of thousands per day. It really depends on your setup, depends on the size of your organisation. Your financial director should be able to give you a rough figure on what a seated cost of an employee costs per hour. But then you have to factor in potentially replacing the kit that broke, that caused the downtime, repairing it. You then have to factor in soft costs such as degradation in customer goodwill or reputational damage, that kind of thing. So those are not as easily quantifiable.
Now, ultimately, in every organisation, there's usually one person who's responsible for all of the hardware, the software, the blinking lights, if you like. The trouble is, it does come down to them. So is it an HR issue or is it really a technical issue?
I think, to be perfectly honest with you, it's an attitude problem. I believe firmly that SMBs, as is their want, will need to reduce their costs as much as they can. And unfortunately, IT is often seen within those types of organizations as a cost center rather than an enabler. I think if you allow your IT guys to have the kind of mundane day-to-day activities and problems removed from them, then they're in a much more powerful position to become positive contributors to the organization rather than running around like headless chickens fighting fires.
So given that some of this downtime could be avoidable, what are the sort of solutions we should be looking at to minimize it?
Not all downtime is avoidable. If a JCB goes through the internet connection to your offices, there's not a lot a monitoring tool or an IT guy can do about it. But I think it's all about gaining insight. Monitoring is about sourcing information from your IT estate, crunching, analyzing that data, and then presenting that data in a way that is contextual to the person who is consuming it.
Okay, so what exactly are you monitoring? You said there you're looking at the different systems and so on. Perhaps you could give us an example to help illustrate it.
Sure, we have sensors for just about everything out there. We can monitor the usual things such as printers or Wi-Fi connectivity, that kind of thing, servers, storage. But we also have customers who are monitoring their prawn farms, for example, the salinity and the temperature of the seawater in which their prawns are growing. In the Internet of Things age, things that were previously inanimate now have IP addresses. They now are connected to the internet, and if they're connected to the internet, we can usually monitor them.
Now, talking of these sensors, what exactly are they, and for that matter, how many do you need?
Typically, a small to medium business will need potentially hundreds, if not thousands, of different sensors. A sensor is quite simply an entity of measurement. A physical sensor is not what we're discussing here, although we do take information from that. A sensor in the software sense is purely, for example, how fast your website is responding, or how good your internet is, your bandwidth is between Office and the outside world.
And of course, this is only going to work if we meet the right conditions. For example, information is only as good as the way that you interpret it. So whose job would it be in an organisation to draw the necessary conclusions?
I think it's ultimately down to the IT guys, but I firmly believe that the IT guys are capable of a lot more than many SMBs give them credit for. I think if you were to install a software like ours, take away the menial day-to-day tasks, that would then give them potentially up to, maybe our surveys say, up to 5 hours extra a week to do much more strategic things.
I mean, this is now, so let's look towards the future. What are the sort of challenges that we should expect in the future when it comes to security, possible downtime and so on?
Technology is not getting simpler anytime soon. In fact, quite the opposite is true. We've seen just at the end of 2016, we've seen the first really major IT outage caused by previously inanimate objects. CCTV in this case were being hijacked and being used for a denial of service attack on some of the biggest websites in the world. And it brought them down. So I think you have a corporate responsibility as a business owner, and a social and moral obligation as well, to know that if your CCTV cameras are part of this automated network of hacked devices, you need to be in a position to, first of all, know what's happening, realize it, and secondly, be in a position then to make informed decisions about how you prevent it happening in the future.
Okay, well, let's put it back into real terms. What sort of conclusions can we draw from all of this, and turn it into action?
If you're an SMB, concentrate on your core business and bring in guys who understand the future and can source the information required to make the best decisions for your company, regardless of where their IT is, on-premise, cloud, whatever it may be. That would be my recommendation.
Rupert Collier from Pestler AG, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.